Word of warning, if you are a fan of K-pop, hello, welcome, make yourself at home. Could you just pop your fingers in your ears a sec and watch this in the corner? Oh, okay, that'll buy us some time. I don't think they've figured out that we're going to trick them into watching a video making fun of them and then use the distraction to steal their magic wands, the source of their power. What's that? You want to know what I'm going to do with these magic wands? Well, you can't. It's classified. Let's start this video off strong, shall we? I can't tell them apart. Yeah, I said it. You're telling me that you can tell the difference between BTS's V, ATEEZ's Lee No, and Stray Kids' Seonghwa? Well, joke's on you. That was Lee No 3 times in a row. Here's the actual pictures of V, Lee No, and Seonghwa. Only joking, that was all Lee No again. Except the last one, which was Hugh Man, of the debut group Excess. Only joking, I made him up, and that was Lee No again. Korean beauty standards are a cultural practice that stretches beyond just music, with the notion of the K-face. This isn't when you inject ketamine into your eyeballs like I thought, but the standards of face structure and features. In fact, this is so prevalent that the most common graduation present for girls is cosmetic surgery, with almost a third of all people in Korea having work done. This is all to meet industry standards, and even in the workplace. Due to the education system being what I can only describe as nightmarish in its performance expectations, and Korean society being dominated by a corporate technocracy known as the chaebol system that was, of course, installed by the Americans in the post-war period, these cyberpunk-like megacorps socially and economically dominate Korean society. With employment to them being a massive social and cultural feat, it means that competition is brutal. Everyone going for those jobs is going to have near perfect scores in their education, and in the event of a tie between candidates, you simply go for the hot one. So families scrape up money together to give their children the best chance of success, in a very innately misogynistic system that now expands to men too. The irony is that in recent years, K-pop has started to recruit people who look different from the K-face standards so that they can stand out. Or, alternatively, go for the tried and tested method of coloured hair or a fun hat like I wear. This is all the product of very rigid beauty standards. And you thought I was saying they all look the same because they're Asian, you big racist. See, got you there, and there's more to come. The industry of K-pop is a nightmarish hellscape built upon cruel competition and standards of treatment that are quite frankly unethical at best. So let's look at it, shall we? We will be discussing systemic problems, what makes it different from the West, and then, maybe, if you're lucky, look at a few good groups. I've come to terms with the fact that I will never be with this woman from Le Seraphim, mainly because I'm old and fat. What could I offer a beautiful K-pop star besides asphyxiation if I rolled on top of them as I slept? Calories, maybe, a good chippy recommendation. The most use that she would have for me is burning me for warmth in the Arctic. So I've decided that I won't hold back on that front. Male stars also have expectations, and that's to be as androgynous as seahorses. They can't look too masculine, and they can't look too feminine. It's a bit like the Three Bears, I suppose, and the just right porridge being the fabled twink zone. They can't get too muscular either. I saw a gym video on TikTok, and all the fans were saying how massive this guy's arms was. I used to go to the gym, believe it or not, and my body morphed like Quasimodo, complete with mismatch-shaped head from being punched too many times in my youth. I find K-pop fashion interesting, as they can simultaneously look like they were dressed by an 11-year-old, or alternatively by a homeless man. Maybe I'm bitter, as I don't think I could pull off half of these looks. Fashion in this case is no accident. The power of K-pop stars in the market of fashion is huge. Even in the West, the reach of the K-pop stars sees them pop up in adverts or marketing materials. Hell, I reckon the band New Jeans were named as such to guarantee an easy sponsorship in the future, and partly why I considered naming the channel Wolf and Nothing Beats a Jet 2 Holiday. K-pop is weirdly the single most British thing ever devised. That may sound weird, but think about it. What does K-pop and Britain have in common? That's right, Stealing from black people, of course. Don't like that joke? Then too bad, because it's true. K-pop steals from other musical genres so much that they started putting cardboard policemen in the windows to discourage them. Here's the thing. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Long-time viewers not surprised in the slightest to hear me be a pro-stealing activist. It is what it is. The depths of the wolf cave are filled with all manner of historical artefacts that I've requisitioned over the years. The Holy Grail, the Chinese Imperial Seal, your wallet, it's all here. If you like and subscribe, I will let you have your wallet back. The money will be gone, of course, but you can have the pictures of your family. I have no use for them, so like and subscribe. My stance on cultural appropriation is that technically it isn't real anyway, as culture isn't a direct lineage but rather an ever-shifting amoeba-like structure. It's the intent that matters, to me at least. Take for instance the original K-pop group, CO Taiji and the Boys, which is alarmingly close to Wolf and Pals. CO Taiji and the Boys slap, and I don't care what anyone says. CO Taiji and the Boys are very clearly influenced by everything, and are at their very purest form, the essence of the sound that K-pop would become. But to understand how the K-pop industry works, then by comparison I need to show you the West. K-pop is formed from the top down. Control of the market and therefore the culture is conceived in the largest of the record labels. Western companies have tried this too with great success, but the term industry plant is used as an insult to artists. When I first heard the term industry plant, I thought it meant a nice bush wearing a hard hat in a steel foundry. In Korea, by the metrics of an industry plant in the West, the entire industry from top to bottom is the plant, like some kind of Yggdrasil tree. Do I care about industry plants? No, not at all. If the song slaps, it slaps. But what industry plants lack is the razor edge of shifts in tastes and culture, as authenticity is what is valued in the underground and independent music scene. Here's something fun. This is how the entire concept of music works. Here's a caveman I've named Ugg, and he's just come up with the novel concept of banging stones and going, "Arr!" This is great. Massive hit in the cave. Everyone's loving it. The lads are bouncing off the fucking walls. Yes, they are in one of my wolf caves, which I was renting at the time. Humanity, by the way, still owes me a great deal of money after I gave them shelter in the Ice Age, but you've never paid me back, so One of the people at the campfire decided that they really liked this thing called music, so they began doing their own rendition, and now they have their own unique version of the song. This is what we call a scene. Scenes in music and culture play out as localized occurrences of expression. You can have scenes for literally anything. Video games, sports, art, hell, even violence. These are places that the like-minded gather and share ideas and innovate. This is traditionally a byproduct of places like universities or social clubs. Before long, popularity can be measured through its influence. I think these public dance things that K-pop fans do are kind of cool, where you jump in and do the choreography of the songs you know. The second that one of these dancers talks to another, a scene is formed. You have people in the area or willing to travel create a culture of dancing. Black churches, for example, do a similar thing. Singing and instrumentation are a part of their makeup. So when you hear the idea and stereotype of black people always being good at singing, or the classic South Park with Token innately being able to play the bass, this is a result of a culture that promotes music.
Okay, nice, very nice. Alright, Token, give me a smooth bass line.
I don't know how to play bass.
Token, how many times do we have to go through this? You're black, you can play bass.
I'm getting sick of your stereotypes.
Be as sick as you want, just give me a goddamn bass line!
God damn it.
Ha! Don't say I never teach you nothing, as here is another nugget for you. Here's how the slaves created the Beatles. Some of the oldest known music are folk songs used for working. These could be throat singings on the step to keep focus on your sewing. They can be sea shanties and field songs for keeping time, or just help pass the time. Because of the slave trade and nautical traditions of the UK, the sailors and slaves would travel across the Atlantic, and so too did the musical culture of both groups. Sea shanties and field songs share a lot in common. Sea shanties especially, the songs are all at different tempos, so you do various acts and sing various songs to keep time. Will this get back to K-pop? I hear you cry, shaking your little baton like a magical girl. Yes, patience. Poverty was rampant through the American South, and thus, when it came to music, you had to settle for whatever you could make. This is where you think of hillbillies blowing into bottles and such, like hum, hum, hum. Poverty was the uniting factor in both white and black communities, and from this, the blues was born. When the radio and the record player were invented, things moved pretty quickly for music, as it was no longer literally by word of mouth. Now you could hear world-class singers, and not just your Auntie Susan, bellow out Adele after a glass of Prosecco too many. These records were taken back across the water to the UK and traded for British music. Particularly, this happened in port towns such as Liverpool or Bristol. A young collection of Scousers, which is the last thing you'd want to enter your corner shop, heard these blues classics and created a skiffle band to emulate them. Skiffle being the homemade approach to making instruments. Then, as rock music began, they started to make their own music and hit the ground running. Before long, Beatlemania began, and within that scene of Liverpool-based artists, which was known as Merseybeat, you eventually came to have a larger collection of British artists that then moved across the sea once again and went on to dominate the charts, known as the British Invasion. This is an example of a completely ground-up creation of music that becomes a large industry. K-pop has its own history of, let's be honest, total shit, but once someone realised that you could kind of just steal sounds, what we know as K-pop today began. We had an unprecedented commitment to the Wolf Comment Corner, so I've got a few to address today. We have a few specific questions about the Gacha video and why I chose to exclude Arknights. This person says, I got clickbaited. I thought you'd talk about OG Arknights because of Phantom in the thumbnail. Okay, this one's for you then. This is what I would have said about Phantom. Phantom is what you get when late-stage capitalism meets catboys. Catboys, for the record, should be neutered, lest they create litters of unvaccinated kittens. I looked up his backstory and it read like Quasimodo, but with less physical deformities, and thus less easy to laugh at. Arknight AIDS, aka Oripathy, struck our dear Catboy like a speeding car at night, but instead of dying at the roadside like nature intended, his voice changed. I assume, without bothering to listen, into a gravelly voice made up entirely of vocal fry, which is what I order from McDonald's. Oh, we have another Arknight one here. As a 5-year veteran of OG Arknights, I have to ask, why put Phantom, one of the OG characters from the original, in the thumbnail? I assumed you were going to make a joke about that too, but looking through the video a second time, nothing. I actually didn't know there was 2 Arknight games, which you could blame on my laziness, but you could also, I would say, blame the multi-million making marketing team. Just for you, here's what I would have said had I known there were 2 games. It turns out that Arknights decided to slip out a sequel, the same way I described going for a shit. The original Arknights was a tower defense game, but unlike 9/11, you don't have to invade Afghanistan if you lose. Enfield, in comparison, is like Victorian London, in that it's an open world game until you find yourself stuck in a factory. I chose the thumbnail characters specifically on how horny the player base acts around them, and I was stunned to see a man win in the case of Arknights, specifically Phantom. Enfield takes place 150 years after the first game, and on a different planet. This was for the best, as if the Arknight gays and girlies found out where Phantom was buried, they'd have stole his bones like Jesus and turned him into holy relics to take on crusades. Ooh, here's some from the last video. Dear Archdeacon Wolf, what was your role on the Kampuchean People's Revolutionary Army in Cambodia during the 60s? To be clear, I am not associated with any government or international war crimes committee. I'm just curious. Firstly, I know it's you, Sharon. Sharon is my personal rep at the International Criminal Court, by the way. They used to have a whole department dedicated to me, but after failing to track me down, it got downgraded to just Sharon. Because it's you, Sharon, I'll give you my statement again. I was really busy in the 60s, when I wasn't running security for the Beatles, escaping from the grassy knoll, and writing speeches for Martin Luther King. For most of this period, though, I was on the run after the great train robbery of 63 and laying low. There you go, Sharon, add that to the folder. Wolf, what is your opinion on Blade from Elden Ring? Excellent question, and the answer is race traitor. That sounds extreme, but wolves all got together and agreed that we'd never be subservient to witches again. And what did he do but go straight to Rani, whom you can't convince me is not a Smurf. Smurfs are from Belgium and thus cannot be trusted. Video number 2 of asking you to talk about the Weasel 1A4. Very well, have your wish. I considered letting this go on till the end of time so it would keep the comment engagement up. But it'll be rude when I have so much to share. I actually have a few of the older models in the Wolf Cave that I commandeered as part of the French Resistance. They kind of remind me of those tanks you get at fun parks, and are actually known as tankettes. Kind of like a female tank. Logistically, this means that they are unable to parallel park. They are utterly adorable. Look at them go! They were designed in later versions so you can push them out of planes and parachute with them. Oh, actually, I've got some footage of the Weasel in action here, and I definitely didn't dub over it. Pew 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 pew. 2 Wolf, do you have a space station? No, not anymore. It turns out that duct tape and pizza boxes don't last long in the perilous vacuum of space. Don't get me wrong, it worked, but I reckon NASA sabotaged it as they couldn't figure out how exactly it worked, which was equally a mystery to me too. With these things I just tend to black out and wake up with them fixed with my oily paws. Now this is a question. Is a werewolf an upgrade of a human, or is a werewolf a downgrade from a wolf? Downgrade from a wolf for sure. Why? Because werewolves are part human and are thus subject to the tax code. It also makes you subject to various criminal penal codes, which we should take a moment to chuckle at. Penal code. I can reveal an exclusive for you. The whole werewolf thing, psyop. Remember the whole furry scale thing of the last video? Well, by introducing the concept of the sexy werewolf, we were able to blur the lines of acceptability and make it easier to seduce humans. Obviously, humans are gross, so it was entirely for the purpose of financial crimes and inheritance. By having separate parts of the song move across genres, you can appeal to the maximum amount of people. The money made morphed into the trifecta of pop song, rap breakdown and dance music switch up. With these genre changes and music selection, you can categorise them as cynical or sincere. Take Attise's new song Bad, where it aims to have Latin dance fusion. Ooh, very nice. Is this cynical or is this sincere? Why do you think they use English words in songs? To appeal to broader markets, of course. People tend to not really listen to lyrics anyway, so if you say a few buzzwords you can kind of get away with it. Dance music is universally worldwide, so including it is another cynical way to not only boost your appeal, but also be able to license the music for clubs. In Bad's case, you introduce the Spanish language verses, as well as the tempo to appeal to one of the biggest languages and under-tapped markets in the world. By taking the slice of the pie from various regions and culture, you can maximise global outreach, have a viral dance trend as part of it, and it's literally free money. Is this cynical? 100%. But who is cynical? The label, the marketing departments and the executives. But the artists? Well, that's a good question. For the most part, I would say sincere. The lads, as I call them, seem to be enjoying dancing and singing to the new beats and are welcoming of the new outreach they get. See, I'm not just a big asshole, maybe 80% asshole. This crashing momentum of cynicism from the top and sincerity from the bottom are a recipe for total fucking disaster. But there's no more emblematic example of this than how to become a pop star. So how do you become an idol? Obviously, I'm already an idol, so I know it all. The most basic of requirements is not being fat. This would end my K-pop career immediately if I turned up for an audition. They'd bring out a forklift to carry me out. Korea is very sizist, as it's known. They put a great emphasis on small figures and bone structures. The only small figures I'm interested in is Warhammer, so they can fuck right off. I'd never been concerned about bone structure either, unless it's a pile of chicken I eat out of a bucket. This is a difficult subject to broach, so I will handle it like I usually do, with the first touch of a brick wall. When I watch videos of K-pop stars dancing, I just want to feed them. Not even in a weird feeding fetish way, where you keep giving them food until they die type thing, but more that I know that they'll appreciate something from my local chippy. I've had to cut weight for sport before, and I'm telling you, these people have never seen a carb in their life. I was like a vicious beast after not being allowed to consume glorious carbohydrates. I was like a fucking dinosaur breaking out of Jurassic Park. I find myself looking at their thighs, not even in a sexual way, more in consternation of what has a larger diameter, their thighs or my fat cock. Having this type of body is a constant requirement for any prospective artist, or even in everyday life. I saw a TikTok listing K-pop stars with weight problems, and it was the most laughable thing I've ever seen in my life. I could go to Lidl right now and eat enough to be considerably fatter than these girls. I could launch these girls like Scottish logs. The lads have no luck here either. Even when they're doing gym stuff, they can't get too big, as their dance routines are so intensive that it will be simply too difficult to keep up. Dancing is a big part of K-pop for some reason. I don't have the knees for dancing. I drop a quick crip walk from time to time if the need arises, but I'm not doing these. I'd have made it through about the first 3 choreo steps before collapsing and requiring that they bring out the forklift again, someone who they forced me to hire full time at this point. How many dance moves can there be? I know like 4. The sprinkler, the aforementioned crip walk, the A, and of course the childhood classic, the knee slide. Here is Sun Hong Min and Ji Woo. They are both hopefuls, have a passion for both singing and dancing since they were young. I bet these arse-face munters don't even have the K-face. I know, right? What are they doing being born like that? Remember, you aren't ugly, you are just poor. My boy Sun gets a jaw alignment surgery, and Ji Woo gets some lip filler, and most importantly, double eyelid surgery. The single most popular surgery type in Korea, as it's more desirable to look Western for some reason. Though, I don't know why you would, considering that most of us look like this. I never understood that. Why make beauty standards that don't originate where you aren't? Asia does this a fair bit, and it makes absolutely no sense. It's why I completely respect the idea of black Nubian queens, whereas everyone else tries to make themselves look whiter, which I can tell you is not a good idea. Whilst you will be pulled over by the police less, and not searched as much at airports, you have to look like us. So really, what's worse? Oh, and the name Sun is terrible. You are now John Hugh Man. Oh, sorry, what's that, love? You don't want to change your name as you were named after your grandmother? Well, okay. Well, how about you tell that fat bitch it's an awful name, yeah? Okay, great. Now get out of my training camp for daring to say no. This is where it starts. K-pop hopefuls will audition through incredibly brutal selection processes, interviews and trials. I'd say it's easier to become a space marine than a K-pop idol. Here they get an idea for what their future role just might be. Oh, and the whole feeding, housing, clothing thing where you live in dorms. Oh, and you're also on a 7-year deal because the Fair Trade Commission said if it was any longer, it would be considered slave labour. You have no say in your direction, you have no money, an arbitrary amount to pay off, and no way to get out of your contract, as if you try, you will be blacklisted by everyone. Good luck, and now dance for me, child. Dance for me! Jets! I thought it was really funny when I learned that K-pop groups have positions like striker or centre-back. The hopefuls are first split between the talented and the good-looking. Those who are both are sequestered away, put in cryostasis for later use. Here's a few of the positions. Visual. You are, to be honest, shit, and your new job is to look pretty. That's what visual means, and I love that they just tell them this. They do the least dancing and singing, as their primary job, I believe, is to simply smoulder in place. Obviously, dance is the dancey one, that is at the front of the choreography. Then you have vocal and leader. There's also energy too in some groups, which is my favourite, as it implies they hand out water bottles and provide the others with nutrients between songs. If it's a big group, then you can have vocal, lead vocal or sub-vocal, and that goes for all of the positions. This makes visual even funnier, as if you are sub-visual, then it means you're not even the third most attractive one, and thus the most replaceable. It's not uncommon to have substitutions brought on into bands. I like to imagine with a giant board like the World Cup. The idea of replaceability is the single toughest hurdle for any K-pop star. Essentially, you can't put a foot wrong, or they will poochie you out of existence.
Well, look who's here! Hi, Poochie. You look like you've got something to say. Do you?
Yes, I certainly do.
I have to go now. My planet needs me.
Wow, Poochie came from another planet?
I guess.
Hey, that wasn't supposed to happen. Those Sphinx double-crossed me.
Poochie's dead!
And weirdly, the fans accept this more than I thought they might. I'd have expected that they would start doing drive-bys on label-owned properties and detonating IEDs on executives' convoys. But until they become a massive star, no one really cares that much. This makes a lot of sense when you consider that the K-pop industry normalises punishing minor infractions with complete career ruin. This makes it incredibly hard to gain power within the industry, and that's explicitly by design. You can still be an independent artist, but the difficulty is vastly higher than the West. A Western artist can grow through numerous means and use that growth as both leverage in contractual and personal negotiations. K-pop is a system designed to crush the little guy and take talent and keep them confined within long-term contracts with few incentives and fewer protections. Rap also had this problem, especially in the age before SoundCloud removed the price barrier to making music. Young rappers would be signed by artists who are given a subsidiary label that they can operate. This is partly due to the criminal culpability of many rappers, as they have a tendency to continue their illegal street activities. Famously, Birdman was an average rapper. He got a subsidiary, Cash Money, signed Lil Wayne, who got his own subsidiary, Young Money, and hence why in the early years of Drake's career and Nicki Minaj, you would often hear them say Young Money, Cash Money billionaires. This basically meant that all of the money that they made went to Young Money, Cash Money, and not in their pockets. Drake eventually got his own label as a separate subsidiary of UMG, aka Universal Music Group. That same group is also one of the major K-pop labels in worldwide distribution, so it's rather incestuous. You'd think that the K-pop fandom would be able to support independent artists on social media, but this is surprisingly difficult. Most independent artists in K-indie, as it's known, are mostly trainees who entered the K-pop mainstream pipeline but got rejected. The problem is in part that no one makes any money until they hit the big time, and even then you're signed to a 7-year deal where they pay you in daily oats like a horse. Your replaceability versus profit gain is your only protection. If, however, a member of Blackpink is like, pay me, I want a raise, they kind of have to do it, as the leverage just shift through the popularity of the band. Without this armour, you've got another problem. What if they graduate you? I came across this firstly in the Wolf Slanders VTuber video, which is an absolute banger in hindsight, so go watch it. In K-pop, you have debuting and graduating. This is just more means of control. To debut is a bit like first arriving at the ball, but instead of high society, it's mainly dancing for children. Prior to debuting, you are kept hidden like Nazi gold, and you must not reveal anything before the time is right. Think of it like this. They basically keep people secret, and no other medium does this to my knowledge. It's a bit like if Manchester United were like, oh, here's little Diego. We found him in a favela in Rio eating rats to survive. We kept him hidden from the world and forced him to play football every day until he bled. Even his family, if he had any, don't know he exists. Here he is. Now play, child, like your future depends on it. See over there, behind that boy-shaped curtain is Raheem. We found him in the deserts of Tunisia, charming snakes for tourists. If you fuck up once, Diego, so help me God, I will replace you with Raheem, and I will dump you back in the barrio where you fucking belong, you little fucking shit! Graduating can mean a number of things. Leaving the training school, the end of a contract, or even retirement. Most K-pop hopefuls not knowing which until it's too late. Okay, John Human, we've got you in this contract and you've been dancing and practicing so much that if you say 5, 6, 7, 8 in your presence, then you immediately start breaking it down on reflex. It turns out you can't really be a dancing robot, though there's still time and I reckon they'll try. Because of this, you also have to have lessons in courtesy and conduct. You have to be perfect. Having a dangerously close stomach movement and almost shitting yourself in London Paddington Station, you can't do it. Oh yeah, like we've not all done it. Not speaking from experience or anything, but hang a hard right when you go in through the front entrance. The bathrooms are on your right in the corner. Not only are you expected to represent yourself as an idol, but this also includes in private. Dating is out of the question. Are you fucking mental? What happens if a 12-year-old realises that they can't date a 24-year-old? Something that would obviously put them in prison. The wish fulfillment aspect of your character is very important. And this is obviously a thing in the West too, I assume to cater to the cretinous stalkers in the audience. If you think that me finding out that one of these girls is actually engaged to someone who sells Pringles and Sainsbury's is going to stop me from gooning, then you are out of your damn mind. On the contrary, men the world over would hit the streets because one of us, the crazy bastard, did it. Preferably as far away from the music industry as possible and as normal as we can possibly make them. If I find out that Jenny is dating a plumber called Gaza from Staines, it's going to be a wonderful day. Maybe young girls don't share that optimism and support for their fellow man, instead trying to stir up shit in any way they can, which now I think about it, sounds like a lot of fun. I remember seeing someone in J-pop a few years ago, and they had to shave their head after breaking band rules and seeing their boyfriend. I was utterly furious at finding this out. I bought them some flowers and a get well soon card, because I thought they'd started chemo. Good work, John Human. You are now a K-pop star. Tough shit, by the way. The good songs have gone to the better bands, and you just kind of do this kids' music, okay? Good luck. Truth is, kid, it was all luck anyway. You catch fire, you get the good songs. You get the good choreo ideas. You get the promotion of the label. Well, if you don't get that, well, what are we going to do? Get the fuck out. Take Diego with you. I hope you had a fun time of me yapping about K-pop. Like and subscribe. Bye.